What is up, everyone? We got an epic video for you today. I know it's been a little minute since we last posted, just been super busy with racing, with work, with business, and with building the Ultimate Kart Academy. It is an online community that is designed to take you from being a beginner or an intermediate, get you up on the top step of the podium as quick as possible. There's over 35 different videos currently. We add to it monthly. We have a private Facebook community, and you get personal access to Derek Jones from Power Republic, all their insights, tips and tricks, and everyone else who is seeing success out on the racetracks. So if you want to see what it's all about, just click the link down below. Today, we are going to be reviewing our last club day at Ipswich Kart Club. Just want to break down a few things that I learned and a few things that I've been able to apply to help me see more success out on the racetrack, thus allowing me to extend my lead in the current club championship. And I just wanted to break down a few things that I've been able to learn and apply in my short time in racing, and how that may be able to benefit a few of you guys, how you can optimize your race weekends to get up onto the top step of the podium. So without further ado, let's dive straight into it. First up is we have qualifying. I'm not going to show you the entire qualifying run, but I want to point out a few things that are going to allow you to qualify on pole position or high up on the field. So the question we get asked a lot is, how do I drive on new tires? There's a few little secrets that I want to share. You might already be doing that, and that's cool as well. So as we watch here, we're going out of the gates, and I strategically got my kart to be right up the front. I knew I had a lot of pace. I knew I was with the quick pack of the field, and I didn't want to get stuck behind slow people during my qualifying run. And so it's really, really important to get a good space on the racetrack for your qualifying. You want to allow yourself enough gap in front and also behind, so you're not going to catch up to someone too quickly and you're not going to get past, thus ruining one of your precious laps. You only got 6 minutes for qualifying, so you got to make it count. And so I went out first. I just wanted some clear track and allow me just to get into the zone. Qualifying was at around 8 a.m. in the morning, and it was maybe only about 20 degrees air temperature outside. So the track was quite cold. As far as setup goes, we actually, on the day before, we did a qualifying simulation. And so I put on new tires, went out when the track was at a similar temperature. And what we did and what we found out was to go out on slightly higher tire pressures. The tire I'm using is the LeConte LH03. We went out from memory with 12 PSI in the front and 11 PSI in the rear. And the reason for that is it would allow my tires to come on quite quickly, as we only had 6 minutes. We didn't have time to wait for 8 to 10 laps, as we don't have 8 to 10 laps. Something to keep in mind is you may want to increase your tire pressures when you're doing your qualifying run, just so they come on a little bit quicker. How do you get your tires to that optimum temperature as quick as possible? Let's watch here. So when you go out on new tires, guys, obviously they're going to have a lot of grip, but when it's early in the morning like this, you're going to get a lot of understeer, right? The biggest mistake I see a lot of people make is they get this habit of doing these fishtails and zigzagging up and down the straight. I know you see it on TV, you see it in Formula One, completely different, all right? We're driving go-karts, we're not driving F1. One thing I learned from a coach and a mentor, when we're on new tires, or when we're trying to get temperature into our tires, fishtailing and zigzagging is only going to heat up the surface of the tire. It's not going to heat up the core temperature. And that's what we want to be aiming to do, to build that core tire temperature as quickly as possible. So what I've learned to do is, when we come into a hairpin or a big braking zone, is you almost want to take a defensive driving line. And I'll show you in this example here. So I come out of this corner here, and see, I turn in quite narrow. I'm not on my regular racing line. I turn in quite narrow, and I go as fast as I possibly can, and then I slam on the brakes, almost into a lockup. You don't want to be sliding around, but very hard on the brakes. And then, as you can see, I'm putting full steering lock into the corner. Why am I doing this? Is because that's how you get your core temperature up. You're putting maximum load into your front tires and really allowing them to heat up. This is what I do in the next hairpin. As you can see, take a defensive line, maximum steering lock, and out you go. And then I go full kilt down the straight, exact same thing, maximum steering lock, take another defensive line here, and away you go. And I do this for about 2 to 3 laps. You gradually ease off the steering lock and the defensive lines. You can feel when the tires are starting to heat up. That's what I found to be really, really effective. Maximizing your new tire runs. You don't want to cook them. You don't want to do fishtails, zigzagging up and down the straight. It doesn't do anything. And if anything, it's just going to hurt your tire life even further. And then driving that defensive line. Drive it in deep, hard on the brakes, full lock into the corner. This is how you're going to build that core temp. As far as kart setup goes, with this particular chassis, I drive a Kart Republic, and what I found to work really well on new tires is to remove the front bar. We're running about 3 mil of negative camber per side, neutral caster, and then we're running a positively raked cast. So we've brought up our rear ride height as high as possible, and we've dropped our front ride height, so it's 2 spaces below, 1 spacer above. This, for me, was the optimum setup for the qualifying run. And so guys, when it comes to qualifying, you only need 1 clean lap. Ideally, that's usually lap 4 or 5 when your tires have come good and you got the most amount of grip possible. You want to strategize and plan out your qualifying runs so that you're hooking come lap 5. And I'm going to show you my lap, and it got me to pole position by 1/10 of a second. It was actually my fastest lap ever around Ipswich. I'll skip to that now. And mind you, I wasn't perfect. I didn't have super consistent lap times. I stuffed up a few of the laps beforehand. And so have a watch. I'll let you. So this is the quali lap here. So there you have it. That was my qualifying lap that got me pole position at Ipswich Kart Club. It was around, I believe it was a 50.1 in the restricted medium class, which was very, very quick. As you can see, I even made a few mistakes. I had a little bit of oversteer in a few corners there. So probably could have gone a little bit faster if I was a better driver. Alrighty, so this is heat 1. Obviously, we're starting off the pole position. And just like I mentioned before, we're trying to get as much heat into the tires as possible. Your mindset going into a race, you need to be dialed, you need to be focused, you need to be confident. Work your tires so that you know that coming into turn 1 and turn 2, you're gonna have your tires at that optimum temperature. You're gonna have more grip than anybody else. You're gonna be ready to go. And so as you can see on the outlap here, I'm taking defensive lines. Actually, I am doing this here just because we only have 1 lap. If you are going to fishtail, slow down and really work the tires. Really add a lot of lock. Now we're starting to back the pack up. If you ever get the opportunity to start on pole position, then you get the benefits of dictating the pace of the start. So here, you're not allowed to zigzag or do any more tire work. You just got to maintain formation, and everyone's joining the back of us here. Over my time starting off pole position, I've got a pretty good success rate at getting a really good start as far as not losing a position. One thing I try and do, as you would have learned in the how to get a perfect race start video, I'm riding the brake. So as you can see, I got my foot on the brake while still applying a little bit of gas. And all I'm looking at now is I'm just looking at the orange lights down the end of the straight there. As we get closer and closer to the lights, I'm slowly applying more power and also more brake. I don't want to be going too fast just yet, but I want to be building the revs. I want to be building the energy in the motor so that when the lights do go out, I can just let go of the brake and I've got an elastic slingshot into turn one. Bang. Cool. So the lights have gone out. My standard move off pole position is to move a little bit to the outside so I can set myself up to have a better run into turn one. And then at this particular track, because turn 2 is in the opposite direction of turn 1, I'm going to take a narrow race line. I don't want to leave the door open for P2 to sneak up the inside of me. I'm going to dominate turn 1, and then I'm almost straight lining it straight into turn 2. I dominate the exit of that. But coming into turn 1, the guy who was starting in second, he had a shocker of a start and he drops all the way back down to 6. As you can see, he's the red kart. And if you are starting on the outside row, you got to be careful not to get hung out into the marbles, okay? That's the dirty side of the racetrack where there's not a lot of grip. You don't want to be there. And as you can see, this is an example of what can happen if you do get hung out to dry. And so, didn't have anyone coming up the inside of me there into turn 2 and allowed me to slingshot, and away we go. Now, I don't want to bore you to death. We don't have to watch this whole video. I'll have a link to the full video later if that's something you'd like to watch. I just wanted to touch a little bit on having a winning mindset. I'll tell you a little bit of a story. Going back last year is when I started to get to the front of the pack and start to lead races. Every single time I would get to the front, I would start to tense up. I would actually start to go slower. It's a different experience when you're out at the front, knowing that you have 20 or 30 karts behind you that are just ready to overtake you or ready to take you out at any given opportunity. I would always get past when I was leading. There was a time there where I was leading the state titles. I qualified on pole, I won a few of the heat races, and then come the final, I led every single lap until the last 2 laps where I got overtaken. That was because I couldn't relax. I couldn't focus on my driving, hit my marks, hit my apexes, my braking points like I normally did. Because I was tensing up, I started to brake a little bit earlier, I would turn in a little bit earlier, and ultimately my lap times didn't improve. When you are leading a race, it's really something that you've just got to get more experience doing. And so like Derek always preaches, go to other clubs where you can start to win. Get used to that feeling of being out the front and leading the pack. The biggest piece of advice I could give is just drive it in extra deep. Don't want to get into the habit of braking early. There's no shortcut and there's no other practice that you can do other than leading a race to be able to do this. And so it might come naturally to you, it might not. It might require a little bit of work like it did for me. This particular heat race, I was able to pull out a 3.5 second gap in just 10 laps. I've been able to train my mind just to relax when I'm out the front. A big thing I see a lot of drivers do, especially when they first get to the front of the field, is they start looking back a lot of the time. It's okay to look back at 2 times during the race. The first time you can look back if you're leading a race, when you're coming into the first main overtaking zone. Look over your shoulder, see if anybody's there. If someone's there ready to send it up the inside, defend your position 100%. Once you've defended your position, just look forward, okay? Get into the flow state, get into the rhythm. The second time you can look behind you is when there's 2 laps to go. You can do this coming down the back straight or the start finish, wherever is a good spot to look. Look over your shoulder, see where everyone's at. If there's someone right on your bumper, you know they're probably gonna try and put a move on you soon. You want to listen to the tune of their karts getting closer. If there's no one behind you, like in this case, then don't worry. Just keep driving like you normally are. Don't get into the habit of always looking over your shoulder. It's only going to make you slower. You want to be focusing on you, not what other drivers are doing, okay? As you can see, almost got the whole length of the straight here. At this point of the race, I knew I had a good gap. I actually started conserving tires. I didn't push as hard. As far as setup goes, I had the exact same setup for qualifying for heat number 1. Okay, so heat number 2. This was very, very interesting because while we were sitting on the outgrid here, believe it or not, it starts to rain. And guess what? We're all on slick tires. As I was sitting there waiting for our turn to go out and I could see the rain, I was just telling myself, okay, Zach, you know what to do. You've driven in the wet on slick tires before. Just do what you've practiced. Whereas I could have told myself, oh crap, I'm starting on the front. What am I going to do? What lines do I take? What's everyone else going to be doing? And I could have allowed the stress to get to me, but it's really important just to be cool, calm, and collected, especially when things don't go to plan, like it starts to rain when you're on slick tires. As you can see, we go out the gate here, and you can see it wasn't bucketing, but it was enough, as you can see, that you can't take the dry line. I'm turning in, got absolutely no grip. Nearly run off the road there. But when you're driving in the rain on slicks, you want to find where the grip is. So coming into a hairpin corner like this, I'm braking on the inside. If you brake on the outside, there's a lot of rubber, and when it gets wet, it becomes very, very slippery. So braking on the inside, almost where the marbles are, gives you better braking performance. And so I'm braking on the inside here, and then giving it full lock, and then eventually the kart will rotate on the exit, as you can see there. Yeah, so obviously starting on the pole position again. And so just turning as much as I can, taking the wet line on the outside to slingshot me around. And as you can see, the track's starting to dry at the moment as well. It's not raining anymore. Had to run across the grass there. But really, I don't know where the grip is. I've got no one in front of me to be able to reference, so I'm very much the guinea pig at the moment, being out the front, trying to find where the grip is. Coming into the back hairpin, you brake on the inside, then you drift out to the outside, and then you turn in to get a good exit. In these conditions, you want to minimize as much wheel spin as possible. Wheel spin is slow, so you want to be able to minimize that. So have a little look over the shoulder, see where everyone else is. And yeah, this track is starting to dry, but only in some places. So you can take a little bit of a better line, but the grip is just very, very unpredictable. As you can see, coming down the back straight here, I made a mistake and spun. As you can see, I just got on the gas too early, spun it around, and that was that. Dropped me back to 7th spot. They caught up to me here, and while I wasn't trying to defend, I was just trying to get the best braking performance. And I came around, there was grip, then there was no grip, and 7. Got going again, and as you can see, the track is starting to dry. So at the moment, it's just testing to see where the grip is. See, we could turn in, and these next few laps, I'm just trying to catch up as quick as possible. I knew I got the dry race pace, so it's just trying to be able to find where the grip is and getting back on to the rest of the pack. And the grip is pretty much all back. It stopped raining, the track's dried up, and now we can really start to push. And as you can see, we're able to catch up quite quickly. And so when you're coming through the field, you want to be strategic about where you overtake. You don't want to do too many high risk maneuvers. You just want to line people up for the safe passing opportunities. At this particular track, it's coming up into turn 9 here. As you can see, I take the inside, able to get past one guy into turn 9 here. They're on the outside. I signal to him, yep, let's work together. We can catch the rest of these guys because Trent was pretty quick that day. And now it's on to chase down Kart 54. Same thing again here, guys. I know my passing opportunity is usually into turn 9. However, I'm just not close enough to make that move stick cleanly. So I wait a little bit longer, and I know my next passing opportunity this lap is going to be down into the back hairpin. And so I stay nice and close on his bumper, try not to make any contact. And I just sit here, and away we go into the back hairpin. And so we've made up 2 spots there in 2 laps, which isn't too bad. We got 5 to go. And so now we're just trying to overtake people as cleanly as possible. We don't want to get involved in any accidents. So I give this guy a little tap, let him know that I'm there, get a move on. But Kart 21 was all over the shop, so I just needed to get past him as quickly as possible. And we got a good run, so we overtake straight into turn 9 here. Boom. Went straight for this one. However, overcooked it on the exit and he got back around us. So that was an error on my behalf. Just went in too hot into the corner. And so, yeah, we just pass him down the straight. There's nothing he could do about it. We just, yeah. Don't leave your choke on if you've got a Vortex or a Rotax. If you've got one of those slide carburetors, make sure you don't have that on. And so now we're currently back up into 3rd position. In this heat, we ended up finishing in 4th position, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Coming over here to our final. So based on the number of points, we've qualified on pole. We finished the first race in P1. We finished heat 2 in P4. That allowed us to start on the pole for the final. And so here we have a guy on our outside who's never started on the front row before. He's a little bit of a wild card. You don't really know what he's going to do. And so I was just going to do my normal race start. Unfortunately, my GoPro shut off on the formation lap, so we're going to have to watch the live stream here. But as you can see, the guy starting in P2 just for some reason forgot he was starting second. I guess he thought he was starting on pole, and he jumps the start. He's about 4 or 5 kart lengths ahead by the time we get to the start finish line. As you can see here, he's already a long way ahead of me. And if we cut here, yeah, as you can see, we get to the control line here and he's a long way ahead. I'm back there, and I signal to the marshals, hey, check out this guy, make sure you give him a penalty, because yeah, if you do jump the start, I believe it's a 5-second time penalty added to the end of your time at the end of the race. And so I had this in my mind. Things obviously didn't go to plan. Obviously he's ahead of me, but I knew after the race that he would definitely be handed a 5-second time penalty. The race gets underway, and so P2 and P4 get ahead of me, and I slot there into P3 off the start. Because they jumped the start, they got a nice clean run, and I'm just trying to stay with them at this stage. It's a 14-lap final, so we got plenty of laps up our sleeve. I knew I had the race pace, I knew I could beat them on lap time, and so for me, it was just about playing my cards right, making sure I minimize as many errors as possible, so that I can be there with the last few laps to go. Mind you, for the final here, Derek and I, we made a few setup changes that went the complete wrong way. It made the kart very oversteery and very overreactive. The setup wasn't quick, and I was making a lot more mistakes than usual. And so I'm just telling myself, be patient. Don't make any mistakes, don't do any silly moves. Just be patient and the race will come to you. Wait till those tires come up to temperature, and then you can start making your moves. As you can see here, we're hanging with them. We're in a pretty tight train of karts, but P1 and P2, they are just dueling left, right, and center. which is great for us because every time you try to overtake or defend, you lose lap time, and that allows the rest of the pack to catch up to you. So the more these guys battle, the better it is for me. I made a mistake into that back hairpin there. I lost a bunch of time, and I had to drive a little bit defensively to stop myself from getting freight trained by everybody else. And while I'm following them, I'm sizing them up. I'm studying where they're faster and where I'm quicker. And this, I'm just feeding my brain signals. Okay, so if I get closer, this is where I'm going to make my move. I started to learn that I was very good under brakes into this back hairpin. It's really important when you're coming through the field or you're having a fight for the lead. Don't just bomb them, size them up so you can make the best possible overtake that costs you the least amount of lap time. We come over to lap 5, and now the tires are starting to come on, and this is where you see I'm starting to pull away from the rest of the pack and catching up to the lead pack here. You've got to know that if you do things right and allow your tires to come on, the race will come to you. You just got to be patient and allow it to happen. Instead of freaking out and being like, oh, I got jumped by 2 guys off the start. Oh no, my race is over. You just got to be patient. It's okay. You got plenty of laps. I still got 9 laps left. Very confident under brakes into the back hairpin and am able to make up a lot of time on P2. You can see P2 has dropped off a lot from the leader, so I'm like, okay, I need to get past P2 quickly if I'm going to be able to catch up to the leader here. You don't want to get stuck behind guys for too long. If you see that they're dropping away from the lead pack, you've got to make those moves quickly. You've got to make up your mind and set those passes up. So as you can see, we've really caught up to the back of P2 here, and now I'm telling myself, okay, if I get a good run out of this corner, stay hard on the brakes, and then I can send it up the inside into turn 12. So it doesn't really show it too well, but I sent it on the dude into turn 12 here. And the key with turn 12 at this particular track is you have to be on their bumper in turn 11 in the back hairpin. Instead of just bombing them into the hairpin, just stay on their bumper, and then when they go wide to set up for turn 12, you just drive it in straight. And this particular one, it was very deep, and as you can see, it will cut to a shot. Yeah, we're drag racing down the side here because he was able to hang around the outside of me, and we were both respectful, very minimal contact, but ultimately it allowed me to have the inside for turn 1. Move probably could have been done a little bit better. It was very late. It was a high risk move. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. Had to get past him as soon as possible. As you can see, the rest of the guys have caught up to us. So you've got to keep that in mind. If you're going to pull out moves like that, you've got to know you're going to lose time to the leader and your competitors are going to catch you as well. And for me personally, I much rather chase someone than defend against someone. It just allows me to push a little bit harder, and I can visualize that. Alrighty, so as you can see, we build a gap. I'm confident on the brakes. I make up a lot of time. Just did the fastest lap of the race. The tires are at their best. They're at the optimum window, and it's just full steam ahead to be able to catch the leader here. I could see on the lap board we had about 5 laps to go, so just take your time. Don't do anything silly. Alright, so as you can see, we have closed right up to P1. The fight is on. I'm telling myself mentally now, okay, where is going to be the cleanest and most effective way to pass him? Where can I make sure I get the move done? No questions asked. And so I'm just studying him, and he's starting to make a lot of mistakes. He's starting to run wide, he's hitting curbs, he's looking back, which tells me that he's getting nervous, that he knows I'm on his tail and I'm applying the pressure, and I'm going to go for the move whenever the opportunity comes. So as you can see, get a really good run down the back here. And I'm right on his bumper, so what that means is we're sending it in deep. Sent it in a little bit too deep, but it allowed me to have the inside for turn 12 there. And now we've got a clean exit and we're off. The rest is history. As soon as you get to the lead, don't look back. Just keep going until you cross that checkered flag. Overall, this was a really great, excellent weekend. We had some good competition. We had a lot we learnt, and we had really, really good pace. So big shout out to Derek for not only the killer engines, but also getting my head screwed on straight, having that guy whispering in my ear, running me through the game plans. We're able to capitalize on it. We've had 3 out of 4 wins now at Ipswich, and we've got our eyes set forward for the state championships in a few weeks. Let me know if you got any questions, or if you want me to cover on any other topics that we've addressed here. Really, I hope this was able to provide a little bit of value, and hopefully you can then go and apply these principles and start dominating out at your track.